Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Today is December 5th. All right, it's 2 p.m. here on WZMB 91.3. And my name is Bryce, and this is my show, It's a Bee Thing. I've got a friend here in the studio with me today. Say hi.
Hey, guys. It's nice to see you again. It's Jerry here.
It's Jerry. You know, he had to come bother me real quick. I will be yapping a bit today. I've got a nice little recap for you guys because it is the last of our station shows for this semester. So the DJs will be back next semester to talk to you guys, but you know, we'll always have music playing if you want to listen, and hopefully some content always out on our YouTube and our socials. So please make sure to keep up with that. We've been working really hard. We had 28 guests come in this session. We had so many people come in. We have so much content from this semester. It was like low-key record-breaking. It was pretty amazing. If y'all don't know, this was my first semester as production director here at the station, and it's been really, really successful. I'm super proud of everyone, and I'm really excited for next semester. I think it's going to be great. So yeah, I just want to talk about coming off of Thanksgiving, a few things. I haven't had a show in a while because I've been doing my own shows. I did like 2 shows in a row, and I had 5 auditions this week. So it's been a little crazy, us theater kids, and my 23 credit hours next semester. You know, it's a lot, but this is my favorite part of everything, and this helps me get my thoughts out. So I have a lot to talk about today. Let's listen to some good music while we're at it. My first song I have for you guys is Kevin Abstract and Love Spells with 97 Jag. So please enjoy.
Been floating, my eyes on see the California girl.
All right, that was Q with California Girl. I'm in kind of a chill vibe. I know it's really gloomy out today. I woke up this morning for my 9 o'clock jazz class and was promptly disappointed by just how dim and disgusting it was outside. But you know what? We survive, all right? We're going to do great. We're going to have a great day. My audition and my callback is going to go amazing. I'm so excited. It's going to be great. And then I can see my friends this weekend. I'm driving up to Boone for their birthday. I cannot wait. I will be immediately driving back for another audition on Sunday and another audition on Monday, but that's the grind for you. All right, let's talk about my semester a little bit. If y'all remember, at the start of the semester, man, first of all, wow, what a semester, guys. If I really stop and think for too long, I think I might actually die because it's kind of not real. If I actually think about all of the things, I'm like, wow, it was so slow at first, and then boom, it's over, which is just the name of the game. Honestly, I feel like I say that every semester of college. Like, high school took so long and college is just over, and it's like a blessing and a curse, honestly. But at the first start of the semester, I came into my semester coming off of a really interesting summer at camp. Struggled a little bit mentally because I was coming to find out taking some meds that were not quite right for me. Ladies, hey, pay attention to your body. Clearly learned that lesson as an adult. Figured it out though. And so it was a bit of a rough summer. I had went to Florida, though, with my friend. I was so beautiful and tan. I cannot even look at the pictures without crying. I need to be tan again. And I was really excited. I had decided that, I was going to start at the semester, and I was going to go into, the School of Theater, and I was just not going to give a crap. You know what? I'm here for fun. I'm here for myself. I'm here for my betterment, and I don't need any outside validation. I don't need to participate in any, politics or drama or competition. I can just do my best work and learn and make something for myself. I would say that in a way, I sort of kept that mindset. I swiftly, went to auditions, and I was like, you know what? I don't even want to get cast. I just want to have fun. Since I have to go into auditions, I'm just going to have fun. So went to that audition at the start of the fall semester, promptly got a callback, and was like, huh? I was like, oh my God, what? And the first thing I said when I got that call back was, oh, well, they probably only called me back because I'm their friend. And, now one of my friends a couple weeks after that was like, hey, it really, upset me that you said that because you were discounting yourself. That's not the reason why you got called back. And I was like, you know what? You're right. I'll take that. Fair enough. And so I went to that callback, and I was like, well, whatever happens, I just want to have fun with my friends. All my friends are going to be at this callback. Girl, let me just bebop around and have a fun time. Well, then that pays off, and I get cast. Okay, right. Meanwhile, all of this is happening. I'm in my classes, and for the first, I would say until fall break, which was like around October 6th. So for all of August and September, I was really struggling with my attendance, and my anxiety like was through the roof, which obviously I now know is partially because of the meds I was taking, but my anxiety was absolutely shot all the time. I could not get to classes on time in the morning, and then I would proceed to have panic attacks while I was walking to class because I was so pissed off that I was running late. I wasn't understanding, like, why can't I just get to class? Why can't I just do the thing that I'm supposed to do? Like, why am I not doing good work? I just need to be better. And all I could think about in all my classes was, everyone judging me. And I felt like I didn't have a place in our program at our school. I felt like everybody else was so free and open and able to be friends with the professors and have these bonds and, succeed in ways that I couldn't just because of who I was as a person. And that was hard for me. And that's an experience I've had a lot in theater. So I think that that's why it upset me so bad in the moment and why, it's gave me basically like a failure to launch at the start of the semester. Is it was like maybe that thing was coming back up again, and I guess I needed to deal with it. I guess I never deal with it my junior year of high school when, everyone was succeeding, but because I didn't let people treat me badly, I didn't get cast and I didn't get shows, and I got suspended and I got, framed for cyberbullying when I was in high school, like craziness, right? Nothing like that obviously happened now, but it was a similar feeling, almost double that. And I was just really, really struggling. And I was like split between, being myself, which is somebody who I don't really do small talk, don't force myself into situations I'm uncomfortable in. I don't really care about pretending to be anyone other than myself to make friends. So if that means that I'm alone in a room, I'm usually alone in a room with a book. That's my preferred way of being. I think that I rather choose authenticity any day, any second of any day, all the time. And sometimes, as we've had talked about many times on this show, sometimes that means sacrificing other things. Sometimes that means you get put in difficult situations. You have to say no to a few opportunities, or just have to have more, maybe harsher boundaries in place. Sometimes it means that people are a bit more uncomfortable around you because you don't participate in, talking crap, or you don't participate in fake conversations, et cetera, et cetera. And that's just the trade-off that you make. And I was like, dang, I just feel like everyone around me is just so bright and bubbly and just doesn't care and just goes for everything. And I know internally that I am the same as all these people around me. I'm not that different. So why am I getting treated like I'm different? And it just was a freaking rally. The whole time I was just like, what am I doing here? I'm not being challenged in any of my classes. I'm not in the school that I originally wanted to go to. It was literally like a resurgence of just everything that I probably didn't have the time to think about last year when I started here at ECU as a transfer, because I was dealing with just the stress of being a transfer student. So it was really interesting. And I will not say that any magic, thing happened. I was struggling in my classes, and one day I just wasn't. I was still doing my best to learn because school is my favorite thing on the face of the planet, and I still, did my best to modify everything I did to, make it work for where I was mentally and make it work for what I was receiving from my teachers and my peers at the time. And I was going through rehearsals for Little Mermaid, and luckily, for my first show at ECU, it was directed by a amazing, wonderful team who never at any point in any of our rehearsals, which we're obviously at 5 days a week, let us forget why we were here. They honed in on the why, and doing that in a theater education show, especially something where 1,500 students from across the Pitt County area will come see it, was, more so, first of all, doubly important, just so that we remember, hey, what we're doing has a real life impact on these children, and, remembering maybe instances in our lives when we had similar experiences, but also just the weight of us being here in general and not giving up and things like that. And thank the Lord for that, genuinely. Throughout the course of that, basically, I think just because I was the perfect amount of busy that I like to be, I was working so hard and I was grinding in all my classes, everything. I just locked in. Like, I could actually finally see some sense of improvement and was somewhat, sometimes on occasion, getting validated in the improvement that I was feeling by professors or peers or something like that. And so that was really, really helpful for me. I definitely feel like throughout the semester, I felt myself, beginning to connect some dots, and I saw it there. I remembered the exact rehearsal. I talked about this before, where I realized during Little Mermaid exactly what to do. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go out and do this. I went out, did it. They were like, boom, that was perfect. Never do it differently again. And that was it. And so then I kept, rinse and repeat, obviously. And like we did the shows, and one of my professors was like, oh my God, like you were like one of the most grounded people on the stage. Like I couldn't, like it was phenomenal. And I was like, okay, thank God, because I felt it. But on occasion, you like to hear it. That's what professors are for. I had a great time even in my journalism classes and my work at the station. I kept having some really, really impactful experiences. I kept getting reminded of my skills. This was important for me because I'm somebody who, like I said, I don't feel like I operate solely on like social situations. I like to do my work. I like to come to school, be challenged in my fields, and have my work show for itself. I don't want to have to rely on my looks or my personality. I think my personality is great, but I don't want to have to rely on any of that. I don't want to have to rely on politics, on sucking up to somebody. I want my work and my drive and my passion to pay off for itself and to speak for itself and to stand on its own. And so finally, in at least a little bit of a way, that started to happen this semester. And I think that that's part of what was really, really helpful for me. I just felt good. And then I went into this recent audition. We had our season auditions for the spring on Tuesday, not Monday. And I was like, okay, everything's going to happen. Like, I got this. It's going to be my best audition yet. It's going to pay off. And I went in there. It was my best audition yet. And so I got one callback, not for the show I was originally like wanting to get a callback for, but I got a callback for one of the shows, and that callback is tonight. And so we're still basically straight shot. I'm still 2 for 2 this year on callbacks. Who knows on castings, but still. My juries for School of Music went really well. My finals for all of our acting classes went really well. So we're definitely on a little bit of an upward track. That's just specifically for this semester and just me coming back from what was a really rough semester and meaning to say that, like, hey, it happens to the best of us. It is going to happen repeatedly throughout your time in college, especially because we're at an age where, our brains are still developing. We are literally going through so much growth. The synapses are firing. Like, so many things are changing literally every week, every day, literally every second. So it makes sense, okay? We're learning how to be functioning adults. We're learning what our, values are and these things. I talk about that all the time, how that's the reason I believe I'm here at college. That's the reason I transferred. That's what I think everyone should focus on. And with focusing on that just comes some really rough times. And I had that for sure this year. But I got out of it pretty swiftly, and I'm proud of that. And I hunkered down and I locked in, and I was tired at points. I was really tired, but it still all paid off, And we won first place at homecoming. I forgot to mention that. Like, come on, everything paid off. So yeah, we'll see what happens next semester, which I do want to talk a little bit about, but also a little bit about how I think you can basically place, your semester or a hard month or a hard week or whatever in the grand scheme of things, and sort of some interesting thoughts that I've had coming out of this journey that I had this semester that for me was pretty abstract, pretty not out of the blue, but abnormal, I think, for me. So yeah, I've got a lot of things to talk about today. Just wanted to share. Let's listen to another song really quick before we come back and talk about this complete other larger than life thing that I wanted to talk about. We're going to listen to Dominic Fike. Is it Fikey or Fike? Fike. I've been told by my staff member here. And so with his song, 3 Nights. So please enjoy. All right, that was Arctic Monkeys with I Wanna Be Yours. God, you gotta love some Arctic Monkeys, y'all. You absolutely have to. I'm so sorry. They're impeccable to me, but just a personal choice, just personal opinion. All right, I want to talk about baby the future. Okay, that's what we're going to talk about. And by that I mean at the start of the semester, coming up on, technically this is my junior year of college. So technically I would be going into my senior year next year. I'm a bit behind because of transferring. So this is only my sophomore year at ECU. So I have a bit of extra time, in theory, to figure some of this out, of course. But I've always known pretty much what I wanted to do. I've always known I really wanted to get my master's. Always known I wanted to go to graduate school. I've always been planning to get my master's in directing. That's been my plan for never. And I want to go straight through and get it because I just love school. And so that was really most of it for me. But also, if you don't know, if you are planning to get a graduate degree, obviously most people would recommend that you go straight through just because it makes it a bit easier to, number one, ensure that you complete that degree. Number two, you might complete it faster. And number three, a lot of people get stuck and tend to not go back to school. And then it's much harder to go back to school if you have kids or a family or, a job, et cetera, et cetera. It's much harder to go back and get that graduate degree. So a lot of people recommend you get it first. And I was always planning to do something of that sort. When I transferred here, I had said that I was going to go back to SCAD, which is the school I transferred from, to get my master's, which I'm still quite interested in doing. But after this summer at camp, which we've talked a little bit about this, about how, I've been really blessed and that it has opened my eyes to a lot more opportunities that I never would have expected and sort of given me more confidence to see myself making those choices. But a bunch of my friends from camp, obviously, they're number one, either from other countries or they're number two. Multiple of them are from here, mostly Florida, went to undergraduate in Florida and are getting their graduate degrees in other countries. So one of my friends is getting her graduate degree in London right now. And she is literally all the time meets up with all of our friends who are from Scotland and London and all these places nearby. And it's so cool to see everyone together and just that community there because those are some of my favorite people in the world. They're literally in the world because they're 14 hours away, 1 million light years away. And at the end of the summer, there we go. At the start of this year, at the end of the summer, I had talked with my best friend in the universe. His name is Joe, and he lives in London. And we had been talking about, he was like, you should move to Australia with me and Russell. And I started joking, kind of asking my family members, I was like, what would you do? Would you come visit me? What if I did live in another country, And just kind of halfway giving it thought and in a joking way. And then it wasn't a joke anymore. It was very swiftly not a joke anymore. Because I'm like, well, yes, they do have master's programs there. Of course. Wait a minute. And also jobs and also all my friends and also a really cool place to live that I would literally kill to be. So it became really I don't know, I could just see it happening. I could see myself there. I was visualizing it. It was really cool. And so that's a new development for this semester for me is have 100% decided that I'm applying to mostly master's programs, in abroad. And hopefully I'll get to go abroad, go to Scotland, see my friends over spring break. We'll see different things like that, just prioritizing stuff like that. And that's something I came to over the course of the semester. And then over Thanksgiving, I was with my family in Wilmington and just sort of observing my aunts and uncles and all of their friends who are college graduate age, 24, 25. So maybe more college graduate age. I don't know. But, outside of college age, young adults effectively who are starting families and starting to settle down and move or get married or try to get a career, et cetera, et cetera. And my favorite thing to do, obviously, is to view gatherings of people as borderline anthropological studies. So of course I sat there and was just enraptured by basically the place that these people were at in their lives because I'm only 21 and that's, none of my friends have kids yet. and they're not getting married yet, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not really something like I've seen like that. And now for the first time, I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of a thing. Like that actually happens to people. And basically what I was observing was this really difficult pull when it comes to be like when you start a family and when you get, or when you just have a partner even, of, you know, remaining a part of this community that you have formed, effectively, like, you know, remaining in your bromance bachelor era, but you have a kid and like a wife, and your kid and your wife need to leave at 7:30 p.m. when you're not even halfway done hanging out with your friends yet, and the back and forth of like, okay, but now the wife has to take care of the kid and da-da-da-da-da, and all of this, and like trying to balance. And if you're the only person without a kid in the friend group, or if you're the only one with a kid in the friend group, and what happens then, you know, all of these like just whack situations that occur when your friend group is in all these different places in your lives, specifically when you've, not to say tied down, not to sound super avoidant there, but in a way, when you've become tied down to this, a family, to these other human beings that you have to take care of, that you have to, you know, sacrifice for, because that's what it is a remarkable, remarkable sacrifice. And in addition to me having my own very specific ideas of what it means to be a parent and what it means to have children, just outside of that, then you also talk about just being in an adult partnership and truly, truly what that means. And it's not scary, but perhaps concerning, a little bit stressful. I talked with my friends. I saw a video of this woman and her daughter, and it was just like the cutest video I'd ever seen. I don't know, it's probably my luteal phase, who knows, right? I texted my best friend Ella Claire, and I was like, oh my God, like, perhaps I would like a child. If y'all know, this whole calendar year has been the first year. We talked about it back in like February when I had this first thought for the first time in my life, where I was like, maybe I would like to be a mother. Weird, scary, freakish, scary. We talked about that a lot, right? And I was like, and I told her that, and she was like, well, yes, me too. And we were like, oh my gosh, like, that's so cute. And then I was like, well, I don't know, because I think that I always subconsciously thought that either you have a career or you have a family. Not even in a patriarchy way. Like, that's not what I'm saying, of like how women with families can't have career. Like, that's not even really what I'm saying. That is a thing, but that's not what I'm talking about. That's just what I thought, I think. And she was like, okay. I mean, she was like, well, fair enough, but like, I'm gonna have both, which commends to her for saying that. Like, yes, claim that, you know what I'm saying? But I couldn't really shake it. I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. I didn't really think about it that much. And then I was watching my aunts and uncles this weekend, and I just can't help be struck by this idea that we are at, as, you know, young adults, coming out of college, coming out of graduate school, whatever it is, in college even. This crux, okay? This basically fork in the road. And there are options for your path to go, but you have to commit to one. And not to be negative and not to be hateful, but if there's another person, if there is an animal even, if there is a child, if there is a partner, if there is a family member, you know, the longer you wait to make these choices, the more likely there are attachments that hold you back. Not that attachments and relationships hold you back. That's not what I'm saying. But, you know, your mom is sick, you have a kid, you have a cousin, you have a da-da-da-da-da-da, your boyfriend, your whatever. You know, you're not going to take that dream job that moves you 18 hours away. You're not going to go get your degree in another country. You're not going to move 16 hours away where you barely know anyone with your one friend and have to have a time difference so you can only talk to your family between the hours of like 3 and 5 a.m. You're less likely to do that. And for me, I have never been more sure, seeing so clearly the options in front of me. I have never been more sure that that's not the choice that I can make, right? Joe March said, not to quote my girl, y'all know how much I'm obsessed with her, talked about this many times, right? Famous quote, one of the famous quotes, right? And she says, I want to be great or nothing. Not that I have to succeed. Don't read too far into it. But all of these choices are laid out ahead of you. You are the youngest. You are like the freaking strongest that you will ever be. You have this whole life ahead of you, and nothing, and the things you do matter, right? We talked about a couple weeks, one of my shows, we talked about how nonchalance is going to be the death of us. Okay? Everything you do matters. These are choices that you cannot place too little emphasis on, right? If you do want a family, if you do want a relationship, then you better start building those skills now. If you want to get married before you're 26, baby, you better start dating. You better start figuring out what boundaries you want to have. If you want to have a career, if you want to be great, then I cannot stress enough how much I feel as though that is the path. And like you have to take it. You have to do everything you possibly can to make it happen. My aunt, when she graduated college, which I hadn't seen her since she graduated college, which I think was like 2019. She was like the first person in our family to really like in that side of my family, to really like go out and just like make something for herself. So she went to Carolina. She was a freaking cartography and archaeology student. Obviously, she's a genius, right? She knows how to speak Greek. She moves to Greece. She travels like for cheap. She backpacks with her friends. She's all across the world. She's like doing archaeology work. She's working as an au pair for these rich families and getting to travel everywhere. We would have to like call her. I remember at Thanksgiving one time at some ungodly hour as she was like going to bed because of the time difference. Like, and she speaks Greek. Like, what is that? Like, that's crazy. So, like, she did that. And then she moved out west and she works for the National Park Service. And she owns like 40 acres on this most beautiful open land you've ever seen, these mountains. And she has a farm and a home and a fiance and a community there. She even started to pick up the accent. It was so cute. And I couldn't help but notice, what it means to be that person, to be the only individual who has broken free of the same path that everyone in your family has taken, to be the first to move away from this town, et cetera, et cetera. And also, I mean, she has really acted as an inspiration. My grandpa and her brother both intend to move out there in the next few years as well, to follow her out there. And so I know it must have came with troubles. I know it must have came with people not understanding, but look at how much it pays off, right? To set your own future and the smallest thing. And I'm talking about being a famous director and actor. She's better than me. She's a National Park Service worker. Thank you very much. Let's put some respect on their name. But she lives a relatively quiet life, which, God, isn't that the dream for people who grew up in chaos? like my family did. But I just like am so cognizant this year, especially because I've just been we've talked about this as well, how I've been really cognizant of the differences in my upbringing than the people I'm surrounded with now, and sort of what that means to be in a space where I am surrounded with people who have more money than me, who have had more different more positive experiences than me growing up, and what that changes. Whereas had I, stayed in the same place, maybe I would only be around people who did have similar experiences to me, and how that can stifle you as a person. So I've just been taking account of all of these things throughout the semester. It's been in the back of my mind pretty constantly since the beginning of the semester. And there is a fear, of course, of knowing all these things and compartmentalizing all of this and doubling back down into what I'm doing, essentially, is, I had given in for a bit. I had said, maybe I'll stay. Maybe I'll stay in North Carolina or Georgia. I'll stay near my family, and but maybe I do want to get married. Maybe I do want to have kids. And did the thing like all my friends were doing. Not to discredit this, because it's still a beautiful thing that I could only dream of. But I started to see, my friends' paths You know, and I see you see people who say, okay, well, I'm just going to work for a few months and then I'll get my degree. And then I'll do this. And then I'll have my career. And then I'll get my graduate degree. And they never do. They never do. Yes, it is a privilege that comes with money that, dear Lord, I don't know if I will ever have. It's a lot easier for people who have disposable income to just, I don't need to stop and work for a few months. I can go get my degree. I can go get my career. I can move across the country. Yes, I acknowledge that's a whole other thing to consider. But I don't think people take it seriously enough. You know, I feel like, yes, if you stop for a second, like, who knows if you will start again? So giving yourself the trust and confidence in yourself to do the difficult thing, to do the different thing, to do the uncomfortable, so uncomfortable, maybe even, you know, doesn't feel a safe thing. Because that's what the, like, almost said a bad word, can't say on air. That's what the HE double hockey sticks it takes. Okay? And yes, I've just been so cognizant of that this semester. It is something that I cannot, it's just an itch I cannot scratch. I cannot get it out of my mind. And I'm annoyed because I'm not graduating as soon as I want. You know, my friends are graduating and I should be graduating next year and I just want to start and I just want to go. And it felt really stagnant at the start of the semester. That's part of why I had a rough start of the semester. I was like, what the heck am I doing here? But it's easy to give in to the safety. It's easy to give in to comfort. I know I'd be safe if I just stayed back, just got a normal job and started a family. I know that it's an option for me. I know that if ever anything doesn't work out, baby, I got 2 degrees in my pocket and I got a hell of a community behind me and I'll find something to do. But I also know if I act like that is the path that I'm for sure taking, I will never try the other one. I will never give myself the confidence. I will never take the kabillion risks that it will take to make my future that I want happen. So yeah, have it in your back pocket. But also, I was always that kid. Growing up, I was the kid who said, maybe I'll become president one day if I feel like it. I said that until I was probably 15 years old. That is something I regularly said. I wanted to go to Stanford for film. I wanted to go to UCLA. I was always that kid. And so I think that what this is me finding basically, you know, the adult version of that kid. Because that's always who I have been. I have known that I am destined for something great. And there is no amount of like sacrifice that would not be worth that. There probably is, but you understand what I'm saying. And I just think like treating it with the weight that it is, that is truly, truly there, is really important. And so that's really what I've come upon this semester. And yeah, again, unfortunately I have 2 years left here. But then who knows? Another country, here I come, you know? A freaking career, a freaking crazy, crazy life of craziness and travel and just meeting new people every single day in my dreams. Like, yes, like it has to happen. It has to happen. Thank you to my mother for sending me so many heart emojis throughout this rant. I know you believe in me, girl. I know. And luckily, yes, I do have so many people who believe in me. That makes it a bit easier. I recognize that. You know, there are so many things that have made it easier for me to say this, including the really horrendous experiences I've had, have made it to where, you know, safety isn't as alluring because being uncomfortable is kind of the net standard. So of course I will chase that because I know that's the only way you grow. So I recognize that I come from a bit of a different space. There is an ease with which I have always said things like this that's been different from my peers. I recognize that fully. But I'm trying to explain sort of my thought process of how I got there, especially like as a college-age person, how I reached this conclusion. And that in an age of nonchalance, in a time where, It's so easy to discredit ourselves. It's easy to pick the safe thing where most of the people you graduate with are probably already ring by spring or something, and maybe are all on the same path, to think about what the other path looks like. I'm trying to give someone who listens a reason to do that for themselves, and sort of empowerment in that. Yes, it requires money, it requires time, it requires all of these things. It requires a positive mental state, a support system, confidence in yourself, all of these things that are hard to come by. And any amount of things could knock you off your goals. Life has promises nothing. It is a cruel mistress. But wanting something greater, you kind of have to hold on to that for as long as possible. That's where I'm at. Not to get so philosophical, but y'all know that's my favorite thing to do. Let's listen to a few more songs, and then I will come back. And who knows? I might briefly talk about Spotify Wrapped or something. All right, let's listen to Kevin Abstract, Turl Imoy, and Levi, I think, with Heaven. Thank y'all for listening to me.
I think it's my friend, but is it a thief? You ain't in the streets, ain't no thing.
All right, that was Arctic Monkeys with Knee Socks. One of my favorites. I'm not going to say what a song because I've been told that I say that all the time. Josh, me and Jerry's friend Josh, says I say that for every song that plays. He might be right, but that's why I work at a radio station. I love music. They're so good. Briefly, me and Jerry are going to give you our top fives from Apple Music Wrapped because we are not Spotify truthers.
No, I am a Spotify truther.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, I have Spotify.
Me and Josh have Apple Music. Okay, my tops were Paramore, Tyler the Creator, Pierce the Veil, SZA, and Taylor Swift.
Taylor Swift?
No one gets to yell at me for that.
Okay. My top five were Tyler the Creator, Laffy, Toby Lou,
Bruh.
Drake, and Bruno Mars.
I ain't even gonna say anything. All right, let's see. What were my top? Where are the songs? My albums were SOS Deluxe, Chromacopia, the Cabaret 2021 cast recording, and Folklore by Taylor Swift, and Misadventures by Pierce the Veil.
The only albums that matter on mine were my top two, which were Chromacopia and Don't Tap the Glass.
Don't Tap the Glass made my monthly top, but did not make my overall top. I will say deserved.
My most listened album was Chromacopia.
Yeah.
By Tyler.
Yeah.
Because Tyler's great.
And that's my pick for album of the year. Speaking of, we'll come back in the spring. Y'all know I love giving my award show predictions, but that is my pick for album of the year.
Tyler, Chromacopia.
Full disclosure.
Oh yeah.
Full disclosure, it's winning. Sorry to all the Drake fans out there.
I am so sorry. I'm a Drake fan, but Tyler comes first.
And we'll get into that in the spring, but it's all right. All right, you guys, this has been my last show for the semester. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Hopefully, my shows should still be on Fridays next semester. We'll see. Make sure you keep up with our Instagrams and our YouTubes just to see when all of our DJ shows are, including Jerry will be having his own show next semester.
Yes.
Super exciting stuff. So you can make sure to continue to tune in. And later tonight, of course, DJ Ian Lucas with Aboard the Bebop will be on air from 4 to 5. So make sure you stay tuned. And maybe Sean as well with My House. Fan favorite from 5 to 6. All right, y'all have a great Friday. We're going to close you out with Jason Panter with Maple Brown.
Have
Enjoy.
a great one.